Hi, how are you on this International Women's Day? I thought it was really appropriate to pop in and chat to you about why I'm a business mentor, because you know what? It's women that inspired me to be a mentor to business professionals, both in the mental health sector and outside of the mental health sector. And why is that? Who is the number one inspiration to me wanting to support women in business? My Nana. So some of you might already know the story. Hi, Julie. You might already know the story about my Nana and how she has inspired me across the entire course of my life to aspire to be a business owner, which of course I've achieved, to aspire to support my community here in Tasmania, which of course I have achieved, but also the experiences she had as a business owner and the both the pitfalls and the struggles, the joys and the achievements and the high points. All of those things are tucked away in my memory, watching her as I did as a really young child, watching her building her business, watching her business thrive and flourish, and then watching her business really struggle during some times of financial crisis in Australia and the impact that that had on her. So her story, my Nana's story, is a bit special. So my Nana was the daughter of onion farmers in rural Victoria, and her parents were Irish and Scottish, Catholic and Protestant. And there's a long story there behind how she grew up in what now is a very, very wealthy part of Melbourne, but in her childhood was a slum area. And so they left the farm to go and live in that area. And her mother used to make her sandwiches for school, picking leaves off nasturtium bushes outside their house and putting those between bread for her sandwiches, because that's all they had. That's all they could afford. So from a childhood embedded in hardship and desperately striving to lift herself and her family, once she was a mother, out of that background, if you like, wanting to do better, wanting to achieve, and pushing herself to achieve the things that she knew she was capable of, is the hallmark of my Nana's existence as a woman who has inspired me every day of my life. So my Nana met during the days of the Second World War my fabulous granddad, and they fell in love at a dance and they married, and he's from Tasmania. Now his mother was also from a very poor and rural background, and they had a lot of struggles in their day as well. So these two sides of this one particular family came together and aspired to achieve more for their own children. So my granddad was a builder, and he worked very, very hard. And in fact, he built the house that my Nana lives in to this day. Now, she has just turned 90. She's an amazing woman. She's full of humour. She's full of vim and vigour, as some would say. And she's one of the women who I turn to whenever I have the opportunity to chat with her to talk about business. She set up her business in 1956 from her kitchen table. And from there, she decided to work around providing secretarial services to businesses in the local community. The hilarious thing and the entrepreneurial brilliance of what she chose to do still sits with me every day. Do you know what? She set up a temp agency and a secretarial school under her own name. Can't type, could never type, couldn't take shorthand. She found people to provide the services that were needed, and she ran and established a personnel consultancy and agency, which grew to become one of the flagship organisations in Australia in its day. And she often represented Australia on international conferences in that sector. Such an amazing feat for a woman who had no secretarial experience of her own. So I think when I look back on my life, I spent a little bit of my childhood living with my grandparents. I spent roughly 2 years living with my Nana and my granddad while I was going to primary school. And I would often go into her office after school. I would walk into town and I would walk through the streets of Launceston and climb the staircase up to her office. And there would be women there who were working away, and I would go around and sharpen everybody's pencils. I took that on as my job. I always thought one day I would grow up and it would fall to me to run that business for my nana. I expected that either my mum or my aunts would take over when she was ready to retire, and then one day I would take over. That wasn't to be. That wasn't to be. We had a terrible financial crisis in the late 80s and early 90s in Australia, and around the time just before that, my nana had diversified her business and incorporated a tourism arm, which was a fantastic initiative, really great entrepreneurial spirit driving her decision to do that. And then as part of, or during the same time that we had this financial crisis, there was a pilot strike. Now, if you know your geography, you will know that Hobart, where I live, is in Tasmania. And Tasmania is an island. And so with a pilot strike, wasn't a lot of tourism going on at that time. So what I observed the dignity and the elegance and the integrity and the sheer courage that my nana stared down that challenge with. There were times when she couldn't pay her staff, and the loyalty that she had built up in her team saw them say to her, yeah, this really sucks and this is hard for us not being paid, but we'll stick with you because we know we'll get paid eventually. And they did. And they got paid eventually. For me, the tragedy of this wonderful story of entrepreneurial spirit and this woman, this indomitable woman, is, of course, the selling of the business after that great financial trouble in the early 90s. My nana sold her business, and I'm sure she won't mind me saying it broke her heart. It broke my heart to watch her have to sell that business and sell it for a pittance too, given the financial climate at the time. So why does she inspire me? How could she not? She's my nana. And I have followed her journey, and now she's 90 years of age. And on this International Women's Day, I would be very remiss not to point out what an incredible influence she has been on me, why it is that I support women in business, especially women who are juggling families. I can't imagine what it was like for her in the 50s to have children and a working husband and to be starting a business and all of the stuff that comes with that. It's hard enough as a woman running a family and running a business in this day and age, let alone in 1956 when she started. Now, there are plenty of other women that I could tell you about who've been great inspirations to me, both recently and in years gone by. But I think the story of my nana really encapsulates why I am what I am in terms of a businesswoman and a business coach and mentor. So you'll see me over coming months starting to launch programs that are not just targeting mental health professionals. You'll see me starting to launch programs that are aimed at all business professionals, men and women. And you'll see me offering support in various ways to entrepreneurs, business professionals, and creative entrepreneurs too, not forgetting that I've been an actor and an artist in the past. So today on International Women's Day, I want to wish you all a fabulous day. I want to wish you all the courage, the strength, the indomitable spirit, the entrepreneurial creativity that my nana shared with me across the course of my childhood. And I'm sending you a wish for the same in your own businesses. Thank you for joining me.